We all woke up to some sad news. You'll have much more about to say about this than I will because you're much more familiar with this career. At least I presume so. At the age of 60, Sabu passed away. Or is it Sabu or Sabu? What is the correct way to pronounce his name?
Sabu.
Sabu. Okay.
Terrence Brunk. Yeah. It's fitting in a morbid sense because this week's Dark Side of the Ring is about the original Sheik, who is
Mm-hmm.
Sabu's uncle. And Sabu is heavily featured in this week's episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is ironic.
So, just very sad. I did a Facebook post about him, and I he wasn't in the post. I said this, but I will say it again. He didn't give you 5-star expresses. He didn't give you 1 hour epics,
Mm-hmm.
but he served a niche audience, and he is one of the godfathers of hardcore wrestling. If you were going to do a Mount Rushmore of hardcore wrestling, it would be Sabu, Onita, Funk, and yeah, uh,
Now,
that
oh,
and
go ahead.
maybe Foley. Yeah, and four: Onita, Funk, Sabu, and Foley, I think.
Now, my impression, and I'll ask you this, I say this without any really. So, well, I should just say in full disclosure, and I mean no disrespect, obviously, Sabu, hugely influential and very important. So I don't want anyone to take this wrong. I personally am not terribly, I was always aware of him, of course, because he was so influential. I was not a fan. And again, please don't anyone take that wrong. I'm sad that he's passed away at the age of 60. That's horrible. And I know that he just had an officially a retirement match.
Yep.
I personally am not a fan of hardcore wrestling. Once I see barbed wire and all that kind of stuff, I'm out. So I don't think I've ever watched a single Sabu match in my life. But my impression is, again, speaking from kind of a place of ignorance about him, because I didn't know that much about him. I mean, I certainly knew who he was. Like I said, if you showed me a picture of him, I would be able to tell you, oh yeah, that's Sabu, clearly. So I was always aware of him and his influence. But my impression is he was a huge part of not only of ECW, but in a broader sense, that style of wrestling. Like, he's the one who really kind of brought that to the forefront in the 90s. Am I correct about that? Like he's a giant in that sense.
In America, yes.
Okay.
I mean, Japan, you would say Onita.
Okay.
Atsushi Onita started FMW. FMW became very big in Japan. So you would Onita is certainly he was it in Japan. But Sabu really brought it to America through ECW. And a lot of people, I give Sabu and Taz credit because their rivalry is what sold the first ECW pay-per-view, Barely Legal. Even though it wasn't the main event. Yeah, but nonetheless, that was the rivalry everyone was talking about that knew about ECW was Taz versus Sabu.
Was Taz his greatest rival in ECW, would you say?
Him, I would say either, I mean, it's one of four guys again. Taz, Rob Van Dam and him had an awesome dynamic where one night you could put those two in a match and it would be absolutely amazing. And then the next night they would defend the ECW tag titles on a pay-per-view and it would be absolutely epic.
Okay.
Sandman and him had some very violent matches. They had the Stairway to Heaven match. A barbed wire ladder match, which, yes, that was the monumental train wreck you think it would be.
Yeah.
But it made sense. It made sense. And then I would have to say Terry Funk. uh, was probably his other major rival in ECW. Those three, and to call him just a hardcore guy is somewhat diminishing because he was a great high flyer. Him and Ray, I thought, stole the show at one of the one night stands. They had an amazing match with a spot where Ray was standing on a table bridged between the guardrail and the ring. Sabu goes across the ropes, does a springboard DDT onto Ray through the table.
So he could. So to be clear, because again, I've never watched a single Sabu match, but it sounds like based on what you're saying, he was more than just barbed wire and all that. Like he truly could do very athletic things as well.
Yes, he was a great high flyer, and he was probably, in my opinion, one of the first individuals to incorporate that hard-hitting, high-flying style into hardcore wrestling, like the Arabian Face Buster. You put the chair under your legs and you jump from the top ropes onto someone with it.
Mm-hmm.
That was Sabu. Setting a chair up in the middle of the ring, going across the ropes, jumping off the chair onto someone outside of the ring. That was Sabu. Sabu was the innovator of high-flying violence.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Well, they called him that, didn't they? Didn't they call him the innovator of violence?
That was Tommy Dreamer.
Oh, that was Tommy Dreamer. I'm sorry. Okay.
Sabu's was homicidal, genocidal, suicidal.
That's right. That's right.
And he really did. He put it all on the line. And just it's a sad day for those that like the ECW, because you don't have to like hardcore wrestling. People can sit here and say what they will about it. Oh, it's blood and guts. It's this, it's that, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he had ability. He could tell a story in the ring, and he brought a style of wrestling to American audiences that American audiences really could identify with.
Sure.
And that's what made him great.
Yeah.
And people can sit here and talk about other people that were influential in ECW, fine.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can't talk about ECW without talking about Sabu.
Yeah.
And you would be I don't think we're talking about ECW to this day that wasn't for Sabu and Taz in that rivalry.
Would you say absolutely one of the top stars of ECW? Like one of the consistent main event top stars?
Yes, absolutely. One of the top 10 greatest wrestlers to come from ECW.
What, did they ever put the belt on him? Was he ever champion there?
Yes. In their early days, Sabu was the world champion.
Okay.
Mid-90s, he had a series of great matches with Sandman for the ECW world title.
If you were to recommend a match for me, because I'm sure they're
Barely Legal 97 match with Taz at Barely Legal 97. Just really was amazing. And
as what, his greatest match?
Now, if you want more of his
or
hardcore style, the Stairway to Heaven match with Sandman is just brutal. I don't even think it's on the network. You would have to scour YouTube for that one.
Yeah, that wouldn't appeal to me, I'm sure.
I mean, it's a great match. I mean, look, for me, a great hardcore match is one that no matter how violent it is, it keeps you wrapped into it. And that's what's important to me, is if you can do that, that's amazing.
Now, do we know his cause of death? I haven't seen
No.
anything. Okay. He was only 60 years old, which is young, but it's not necessarily young. My first thought, and I'm sure this is the case for a lot of people, is that, it's obviously he did a lot of damage to himself.
Sabu, no disrespect to Terry Bronk at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And anyone that knows Terry Bronk, I never even got a chance to meet him.
Yeah.
But anyone that knows him knows this to be true. Terry was heavy into pharmaceuticals, as is a lot of the hardcore guys.
Painkillers. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
it's almost unavoidable, right?
I
Not to
mean,
justify it, but I mean,
keep in mind too, he was the other person in that infamous car ride with Rob Van Dam that got the WWE title taken off of him.
it was Sabu.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, so I don't want to, and I don't want anyone to think I'm alluding to it being drugs, because I'm not. I'm saying that certainly anytime you have a wrestler that passes away that has the history, that's
Yeah.
something that goes into your mind. Regardless, to me, it doesn't take away from his legacy. His match that he had, his retirement match with Joey Janela, I thought was probably the best Joey Janela match I have seen. I'm not a Janela fan. I don't think I'll ever be a Janela fan. Um, and
All
for
I,
the
all I
same,
know of Janela is from his brief time in, I think it was brief in AEW. That's all I know of the
yeah,
guy.
there's like a personal thing.
Oh.
I've read things he's done backstage online, and they're from pretty reputable sources, and so I'm not about that.
Mhm.
There, his on again, off again relationship with Penelope Ford. I've heard again from multiple people I know, he treated her very horribly.
Mm.
Yeah, and just like if you're a man and you're dating a woman, this isn't even just as a wrestler, this is just as a human being. If you're a man and you're dating a woman and you choose to treat her like garbage, you're not a man.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Like you, I'm old school in that sense that as a man, when you're dating a woman, you are the protector.
Hmm.
You are her rock. And that's what you do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I just, I don't like wrestlers that do violence just to do it.
Of course.
Like him and Sammy Callahan. I don't get it.
No, I don't
Because
either. But
it
I don't like
sets.
that. I don't like any of that stuff to begin with.
See,
Yeah,
I don't
but I
mind.
don't get it.
It's kind of, and I hope this is the right word, kind of a dichotomy with me. I have no issue with hardcore wrestling. I have an issue with guys that's all they can do.
Yeah.
Like with Sabu, he can do a straight up match.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah, I mean, the match I recommended is a prime example. Yeah, there's some chairs and such, and they bend the rules,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it was ECW. Um,
Yeah.
what do you expect? But those guys like that, Callahan and Janela, just take risks that are so unnecessary. I just point to the Sammy Callahan, Eddie Edwards situation with the chair and the ball bat. It
Yep.
didn't
I
even
know
need to
exactly
be
what you're
done.
talking about. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
made no damn sense to do it.
Yeah.
So why'd you do it?
I assume in the match, Sabu versus Janela, Sabu went over, I hope.
I don't think he did.
Oh, okay.
Because look, in Sabu, as much as people in the coming days, you're gonna it's natural in wrestling, and it's sad. You're gonna hear detractors of Sabu. Sabu was a traditional guy. he believed in the traditions of pro wrestling. And one of the traditions is when you go out on your back.
Yeah.
And I would have a hard time believing that Sabu didn't get Joey Janela over.
Okay. Okay.
I would have a hard time believing that Sabu went into it and said, "Yeah, I'll go over," especially when the event's called Joey Janela's Spring Break.
Oh, that's what it was called, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
Game Change Wrestling, Joey Janela's Spring Break part. I think it's the third or fourth one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, rest in peace, Sabu. I mean, did you have anything to add on that, or should we move on?
No, rest in peace, Sabu. I mean, his influence will be and should be always remembered. And I will say this whenever a pro wrestler dies and it isn't of notorious circumstances, find the best memory you can of them and hold on to it.
Well
don't
said.
don't let the bad. And I know detractors of not just our show, but pro wrestling are going to say, "Oh, are you saying that about Chris Benoit?" No, I'm not saying that about Chris Benoit.
Right.
Obviously, that's a one-off, or Billy Jack Haynes, or anyone that is accused of or has more than likely done what those men have done. I'm saying if they have a checkered past, if they've had run-ins with the law, things like that, but you loved what they did in the ring, find that positive memory and just grab it and hold on to it and keep it, because that's what's truly going to keep their legacy alive.
Agreed. No, well said. Very well said.